You're now live.
Okay, committee. I asked to have drafted, and I think Abby has in one of these, an amendment that says we're only going to tax properties, all real properties over 1.5 million, and that everything, no, that the homes, what are they called? Not mobile anymore, manufactured homes. Only that's what you also call prefabs, are manufactured homes. And that everything will sunset in 7 years. So we will go through one cycle of tax credits, the additional tax credits. That's 5 years and 2 years to work itself out. And we will sunset the 1.5 surcharge. Because that's as close as I saw us coming to agreement. So the floor is yours, committee.
The surcharge is 1.5, Madam Chair?
It's 0.5, yeah.
Or the
Or is
value
it,
of the home?
Abby, what is it? Is it? No, the surcharge is 1.
So for the record, Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel, the surcharge is 0.5%, and it's on 1.5 million
Okay,
value of the transfer, and it's now on every type of property. So both real property that's transferred by deed of title and controlling interest. So that would pull in the second homes that were discussed that are held, for example, with an LLC or another type of ownership structure.
Senator Bray.
And and we excluded commercial properties, is that correct? Or no?
No.
Just moved the threshold up and left all properties that transfer. Okay.
That's the draft that's draft 1.1. It's everything. So it includes residential and commercial, but I could draft it differently if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to be clear. The other thing is, I know it's not your department, but I bet you know. Do you know what that is, if Graham's not here, what that raises in that configuration?
Graham is here.
Be able to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, there he
Thank
is.
you.
He's just popped up.
I am here. I'm Graham Campbell from Joint Fiscal Office. There should be a document on the committee's webpage that shows the impacts of this proposed amendment. The property transfers tax surcharge on commercial properties, or on properties transferred by deed or controlling interest on the value over $1.5 million, raises 1.55 million in fiscal 22, 1.48 in fiscal 23, and then 1.4 million thereafter.
And could I follow up?
Ray, you still got
And
the
then
floor.
for how many? So we talked about sort of a step structure or a declining ramp down, whatever we call it. Can you review just the way it works in terms of how many years do we go raising the full amount of the surcharge? And then at what point do we stop renewing and start decreasing the amount of credits?
So the way this amendment is drafted, the property transfer surcharge, I think it was last for 7 years. Is that correct, Abby? For 7 years, and then the manufactured homes credit, the increase sunsets after fiscal year 26. And so on that same document posted on the webpage, I've laid out essentially the flow of the manufactured housing credit. So it would be a revenue decrease of 250,000 this year, and that's for credits issued in year 1. And because these are 5-year credits, they flow out. The first year's credits will flow out to fiscal year 26. And then essentially these credits stack on top of each other. The difference between this amendment and what had been passed in the House is that there's the sunset that occurs after fiscal year 26. So as you said, Senator, the cost of the manufactured housing credit peaks in fiscal year 26 at 1.25 million, and then because it is sunset thereafter, the cost there's a tail. The cost goes down by $250,000 per year thereafter until by fiscal year I'm thinking 20 or 31, it is $0 relative to current law.
Thank you very much. So Senator Cummings, just since I was one of those expressing concerns about the nature of the surcharge, et cetera, I really appreciate the committee's considering this version that phases out over time. And I just want to express appreciation, and then I would, although I have some concerns about it, I would much prefer this to the original, and I would support this.
Okay, Senator Sirotkin, and then Senator Hardy.
So Senator Hardy wrote us all this weekend, and I responded with some of my concerns, but this looks different than what Senator Hardy proposed. Is that correct? Wasn't there a 2-year sunset on the one you proposed? This is a 5-year sunset?
Yeah, this is different. Just to respond directly, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, and my proposal was based on what I thought I heard the committee saying on Friday, so this is different and that's fine, but yes, it is, mine was a 2-year, I think.
And was yours also on commercial?
Mine didn't have that part.
Oh, that's right, you didn't have any facts at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because based on what I was hearing, it didn't sound like there was support for it, but if there is, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Well, for the record, I just asked them drafted where I thought at least what we were talking about on Friday. Senator Hardy, for the record, why don't you just tell us what your proposal was?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine was a proposal based on what I thought I heard, and if I heard wrong, that is my error. But what I thought I heard was support for a 2-year manufactured housing credit, and then the exemption for the manufacturing. There are too many manufactured things in this proposal. The exemption for the manufacturing sales tax piece, and then not the property transfer tax at all. And so the big difference is this includes the property transfer tax, but at the $1.5 million level, which I personally am supportive of, but it didn't sound like the majority of the committee was on Friday. But if things have changed or if I misheard, then I stand corrected.
Okay, so the difference, I think you are I think we're all raising it to 1.5 million to all properties. And you would do 2 years of the tax credit, which means we would get out, it would be 10 years before it started to ramp down.
No, it would be 7. It would be 6 years, I think.
Okay, well, that's the same then. If we do 1 year, yeah, we do 1 year and it ramps up to year 5. And then if we, if we do a second year of taxes of credits, then it stays flat for another year before it starts to ramp down.
Correct.
So it's like you're doing 1 year of tax credits.
Well,
that would start
2
ramping
years
down after 5 years.
It would ramp down after, it would be over after 6 years, because the first year would be 250, the second year, second, third, fourth, and fifth year would be 500,000, and then the sixth year would be 250,000. Graham is nodding.
Okay, Graham's nodding, so this is good. All right.
That was what I had proposed, but again,
No, I think we're talking the same thing then.
But one thing I just want to clarify for Senator Bray is I don't, unless I'm incorrect, and Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't look like this draft would phase out the property transfer tax. And that's what I heard Senator Bray asking about. There's no phase out of the property transfer tax, just a phase out of the manufactured housing credit.
No, this draft does phase out the surcharge.
It does. Oh, that's not in the side by side, but it's in the actual.
It's on the very first page at the bottom of the side by side.
Oh, I see. It wasn't in the, okay, got it. Thank you.
It
So
repeats all of the language that was added in the House version and then strikes it out.
Got it. All right,
So-
thank you.
this is essentially they're the same proposals. Essentially.
Not quite. Mine didn't include the surcharge tax at all because I didn't hear people wanting to do that, or the majority of
Okay,
people
so
wanting to
how
do that.
did
So
you
this-
pay for?
I suggested that we look at the appropriation side for what's going to VHCB for the 250 or 500,000.
Well,
But-
at this point, I'm not telling Senator Kitchell that because it would mess up the budget.
Fair enough. And like I said, I support this proposal that you put forward, Madam Chair.
I actually like yours better.
So, but they're similar, but not exactly the same.
Okay, I'm gonna get maybe Faith or Graham could drop Stephanie or somebody an email and ask what would happen if we drop this into the budget. I've got Senator Brock and then Senator Pearson.
I had hoped that Senator Hardy's note as written would stand. It does not appear from what I'm hearing today that the piece about eliminating the property tax surcharge will go away unless, of course, you hear something back from Stephanie. And I won't go through all the reasons that I've already articulated. You've heard them, but to me, that's a poison pill in this bill, and I could not support it with that in there. I also think that it is a veto magnet.
I think you're right. Senator Pearson.
So I like the surcharge and I like the mobile home tax credit. But I've gotten a little confused because if there are other things, I'm not convinced this is the time to give the business tax exemption. But setting all of that aside, Senator Sorokin, you always point out that there are different elements of this bill and this conversation moving elsewhere, and it's just so hard to understand all of the parts. But I wonder if you could enlighten us, because I don't see how we make this decision without at least understanding what else is out there and related and moving.
Nothing has changed to what I've said several times. My understanding was that appropriations in the House was about to vote out 101 this morning. I assume they did. And that bill has two elements of this bill, the surcharge and the manufactured home tax credit. It doesn't have the manufacturing exemption. Both of those other two elements are permanent, both the surcharge and the tax credit. It's on a bill H101, which deals with modernization of bylaws, which there doesn't seem to be much controversy on. It's funded in the budget at this point, the modernization of bylaws. It also has a provision that I know the chair likes, that I really like too, that she worked on for a long time. It gets rid of duplication of wastewater and water fees, which I hope to get back in that bill in negotiations.
Okay.
So just so I'm sorry. So the two provisions I like are moving in S101, you believe?
They're in
Surcharge.
there. They're in the House version, yes. As we said before, I think the Ways and Means Committee, I don't know why, whether it was veto or to improve their odds, put it in two places.
Thank you.
Graham, I saw you pop up. Did you have?
I was just going to clarify so I can give Stephanie or Steve a little bit of context. So the committee is considering stripping the property transfer tax surcharge in its entirety and then doing a 2-year expansion of the manufactured home credit.
Actually, it's a 1-year expansion. I mean, we do one round of credits that build up over 5 years. You want to do 2 rounds?
Well, I mean, that was what was in my proposal. So it made it a 6-year thing, but either way, I was just trying to come to some kind of compromise.
Oh, yeah, if we drop it, say it should be paid out of ARPA funds, how much could it be paid out of ARPA funds at this point?
Okay, so yeah, so we have a 2-year expansion of the manufactured homes credit, which is a reduction in revenues in the general fund of 250,000 in fiscal 22, then 500 in fiscal 23 for 4 more years. And I'm going to be asking Stephanie or Steve whether that can be covered by existing funds in the budget or whether they can absorb that, just period.
Yep.
Okay, I will check. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So committee, I don't like the surcharge, but we've got to have a funding source if we're going to do this. I need to be able to speak to Senator Kitchell. I've got Senator Bray and then Senator Pearson.
So thank you for sending that across the hall to see what comes back. Because as I was saying last week, not to repeat much, but there's an unusual amount of money between an original surplus and federal funds flowing in. And I'd love to think that out of all those funds that we could find a way to extend the manufactured homes credit for another couple of years. And if we can get there that way, that would, from my perspective, that would be an ideal solution. Thank you.
And I would not hang a lot of hope on that 101 because I was told this was a balanced proposal coming out of Ways and Means, and the balance was the manufacturing tax credit. So if there's nothing that the other side of the aisle likes in this bill that might persuade them to hate the surcharge less, I wouldn't be, I'd be keeping my tax money in the bank. So we can wait. I think if the committee, if we're just waiting on Graham, we can go forward with governor's appointments. Maybe we could see if Andrew could join us sooner. He may have a solution to, did we really mean to be talking about taxing fuel, oil, or gas facilities? So Senator Sirotkin.
I just want to, I think I'm the only one who hasn't spoken. No, Senator McDonald as well. So the only thing in this bill that I'm in favor of is the manufactured home credit.
Okay. So it's starting to sound like I've got 1, 2, 3. That we're going to have to find another source for the manufacturing home credit. So Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is why I put the proposal together over the weekend, because counting the votes, it seemed to me like there were 4 of us who were not so thrilled with the with the surcharge, and there were only 3 of us who were okay with it. And so I was trying to show that I was willing to, compromise on something. And what I had proposed, there's $40 million in general fund going to VHCB for a variety of things. And it seemed to me that 250,000 of that could be earmarked for this housing credit. So,
That's this year,
yes.
but we've got to have that money over 7, if we do one round of tax credits,
Yeah.
we have to have money to cover it for, we were talking 7, but it's really 10 years because it ramps up and then it ramps back down. And we were figuring we would have extra money from the surcharge.
Right. I think it's 6 years, but yes, you're right. I mean, it would have to be multiple years to
Right.
cover it. So,
So
that's a broader question, but here's Graham again. So,
it's not just covering this year, it's a 5-year tax credit.
I just got off the phone with Steve and he said that the budget's built upon the current law forecast. And because the committee would not be raising any offsetting revenue to do that, that would be lowering the current law forecast. So the long and short of it is, no, you could not. You can.
Why am I not surprised?
They cannot absorb any revenue decrease relative to current law. So you would have to make it up in some way. A revenue neutral bill, I think, would be the goal.
Or we can go back and do nothing. There is a lot of money going into housing this year. I don't like, signaling out certain groups of people to be extra charged, but we'll see. Senator Bray, I think I did Bray and Pearson. I'm not, Senator Bray, did you get to talk? And then,
I did, but I spoke more
Okay.
recently than Senator Pearson. I was putting my hand up a second time.
Okay, well, we'll go to Senator Pearson then.
I just would point out S101 is on the floor for action today in the House. So I'm not sure we need to do this. It seems like, I mean, is there some reason, Senator Sorokin, you wouldn't be in a position to approve, to concur with what the House is doing on 101?
Well, other than I don't like the surcharge.
I mean, that bill will fail then. So,
Well, I don't know. It's a negotiation, you know,
If that one fails, this one's gonna fail too.
that's true.
And if one gets vetoed, the other one's gonna get vetoed. This one would probably be more fair game. Or I don't know, is the manufacturing tax clarification enough to make the administration like that surcharge? I
No.
kind of doubt it. Yeah, Senator Bray?
Well, so I like Senator Pearson. Well, I was going to say it'd be good to see it start to eliminate some variables. So see what happens with 101 and get that set aside. And we could also buy ourselves time. I mean, we had a discussion last week. Senator Sorokin was saying there may be other money related to housing that could be applied to this. I know we do have a letter, but that letter is looking, as best I understood it, at the current situation and said dollars currently available can't be repurposed for this, for the manufactured home credit. But there's always the possibility of, if ARPA money or infrastructure dollars were able to fill a current allocation and release other funds, that there's a way to do it. So what I'm getting into is there a way to buy ourselves time? And you might have fewer steps in that surcharge program, you know, like maybe as Senator Hardy constructed it, it only had 2 steps. You might take it back to 1 step and just buy yourself a year to sort this stuff out.
Well, we don't have to do anything. And this committee is shutting down. I'm not intending on taking up any bills. Unless I'm told I have to, I'm going to be we're still working our way through broadband, and if they don't do miscellaneous tax, it'll be the first time in my 20 some odd years on this committee that they haven't asked for a committee of conference. So we're already having scheduling difficulties. So we're either going to have to do something now, or we can come back next year when we know what funding is out there and what isn't, and do it then. Senator Bray.
So the do nothing version doesn't mean no support for manufactured homes. I mean, it means support at the current level, which I think was 30, which they, as I remember, was oversubscribed, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, they get 100 applications. They
Right.
can honor 30.
Right. No, I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying there would still be a program. It doesn't zero out.
No, and there's other housing money out there. Some of those folks that have been applying for this may find they're going to apply for something else that's out there that might in the long run be better. We don't know. So at this point, I'm going to declare an impasse, and maybe we can send Andrew an email. I see Ellen is here, and see if he can come. But while we're waiting to see because this is about the issue that came up on the floor, and were we including anything other than electric battery storages? And I think it sounds like it was a good catch on his part. And he thinks he's figured out a way to fix it. Ellen, you're here.
You want me to text him and see if he can jump on?
Yeah, I just asked Faith to do that. I think that, but while
I've
we're
sent an
waiting.
email, Chris, but if you could, Senator Pearson, text him, it would be great. 2 o'clock. Thanks.
Okay. So who has any appointments? I've got Senator McDonald and then
Here's
Senator.
Senator Perchlik.
Well, Senator Perchlik's here. Okay, forget the governor's appointments. Okay, Andrew, welcome. Where'd you go? There you are.
Thank you.
Congratulations to your daughter.
Thank you.
What happened?
She graduated from college.
Is this the one that was was that 4 years ago that was deciding where she was going to college?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Time flies, huh?
You did it in 4 years?
You went
Yeah.
to Senator Hardy's alma mater.
All right, tell us what that is.
Oberlin College.
Oberlin, okay.
You must not be on Senator Perchlik's Facebook page, because I got a notice where he was this weekend. Okay, so Andy, what did you catch that?
Well, my question on the floor was just about the definition of energy storage. The way I read it, it seemed like fossil fuel tanks or, fossil fuel could meet the definition under certain circumstances. And so I just wanted to make sure that the committee did that, fully aware of that situation. I'd rather it not include fossil fuel. So I put it, when I talked to Chris and Ellen about it, then it seemed like it could include fossil fuel. So I'm making an amendment saying that for an energy storage that's 100% fossil fuel, it doesn't meet the definition. So therefore it doesn't get the benefits, if you want to call them that, of being an energy storage system.
So it's 100. All right. Ellen, can you walk us through what we did and how this fixes it?
Sure. Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. This is it's a very small amendment. It's just one sentence. And I don't know if Faith has posted it yet, but I just sent it to her. But what we are talking about is in section 5, the definition section in Title 30, section 201, the definition of energy storage facility. So Senator Perchlik's proposed amendment would be a sentence added on line 7 and 8, basically. So it would be tacked on to the end of the definition that your committee passed. And it has some similarities to the language proposed by the hydrogen companies or the Vermont Gas. So it is posted now on the website under my name. And so the language is just adding a sentence to read, "This shall not include devices or systems that store energy produced entirely from such as petroleum products." So flipping back quickly, energy storage means a stationary device or system that captures energy produced at one time, stores that energy for a period of time, and delivers or may deliver that energy as electricity to the grid for use at a future time. This shall not include devices or systems that store energy produced entirely from fossil fuels. And as Senator Perchlik was just mentioning, part of the tension here is that definition 3, which you can't see, which is in the underlying statute of energy. Energy includes not only the ability to do work, but the substances that produce work, including petroleum or other liquid fuels. So that's what the Senator Perchlik was interested in sort of narrowing out. So there's a practical question of whether or not these types of storage facilities would come into play under this definition. This definition is used in Title 30 regarding how the PUC regulates energy storage facilities and those who own them. So this language clarifies not entirely produced from fossil fuels.
Okay. But, all right. I assume that if for some reason there was a gas heater attached to a solar array, or a motor, fired by petroleum, that it's the not completely. So it would not be a storage tank for gasoline or oil, or nor would it be a gas storage facility, right? Natural gas. Because that's entirely fossil fuel. If you had, this is energy created by. So is there energy created by fossil fuel that, well, I guess in the old coal-fired electric plants, there was, or I suppose you could, have a gas electric plant and store electricity.
Right.
All right.
Or a tank of diesel running a diesel generator, something like that.
Okay.
Chair.
All right. I've got Senator Pearson, then I'll get back
Well,
to Senator Pearson.
maybe hear from the witness. I'm happy to defer to Senator Perchlik.
I was just going to say that I did reach out to the department on the language, and one of the things that they pointed out, we said entirely by fossil fuel. So if Vermont Gas did mix some hydrogen, renewable hydrogen, or mixed in some farm methane with natural gas, it would still meet the definition. So this would still encourage those kind of innovative things. But my concern was exactly what Senator Bray just said. Somebody has a 1,000-gallon diesel tank and is running a generator and realizes, oh, I don't have to follow my local zoning now because I'm an energy storage facility.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes,
Yeah, I think this hits, that threads the needle. No one's going to run a generator to fill up a battery in any kind of economical way. That would be silly. They just run the generator. So I think we're there. There are the potential for natural gas and ethanol combinations that's sort of beyond our imagination at the moment, that I think the department, we tried some, what I might describe as more straightforward language before, and the department wasn't ready to go there. So I think this is not bad and more protective certainly than what we have, and appreciate Senator Perchlik, though, creating some hiccups, catching this for us.
that's good. Okay, Senator Bray.
So Senator Perchlik, I'm just thinking aloud along the same lines of what Senator Pearson was just mentioning. So there's that entirely phrase, and I wonder to what degree does that open it up to sort of greenwashing? For instance, on renewable natural gas, the percentage in a pipeline, when I was doing the math on this a couple of years ago, it was a very, very, very small fraction. So I wouldn't want someone to say, all I have to do is mix in 1 part per trillion of RNG, and all of a sudden my tank becomes part of this energy storage paradigm. It could be sort of abused that way. And on the other end of the spectrum, if we had something that was biofuels, but included some petroleum, I don't know where the balance is there either. There could be desirable things that are quite genuine, but not 100% biofuels. So just thinking aloud with you about how to structure it so we exclude what would be sort of an abuse of the definition and include sort of the innovative stuff that Senator Pearson was just mentioning.
Okay, Senator Perchlik.
Yeah, no, I share the concern. The PUC will be doing a rule here in this, so that I thought that they could get into some of those details as far as how they're regulating these systems. They could further define that, or it's something we're kind of keeping our eye on and address in the future. My main goal was getting somebody that didn't even kind of was really blatantly just trying to get around it, but I could see, or just kind of accidentally getting around the local zoning or something. So I get the point. I don't know if we have the time to figure out the wording or not.
Right. Well, so yours is more cautious at this point because so it's not more, be more cautious to remove entirely. Right.
Okay, but I'm kind of uncomfortable with doing that, because then you get into, so what percentage? I think we've ruled out the obvious. If we start doing something like entirely, so it's not entirely, it's what percentage, or is it no percentage? I don't know. So I've got Senator Hardy and then Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Bray, I think Senator Perchlik's language actually addresses your concern, because you were saying you want to be, it could be available for mixes of fuel that are not entirely, that are biofuels that might have a little bit of petroleum, right? And with the word entirely, it covers that ability. Or do you not want those things?
Well, I gotta open the language while we're here so I can read it carefully, make sure I'm not flipping it the wrong way. My concern was that someone could sort of greenwash it by saying, I've added a very small portion of something acceptable that's not pure fossil fuel, renewable natural gas or biofuels. But in fact, it's like 99% or even far higher than that, ordinary natural gas or ordinary petroleum. And so I wouldn't want someone to basically use this as kind of a greenwashing exercise. That's
Okay, I get it. I thought you were arguing the opposite, that you wanted to be able to have mixed fuels, and this language would allow it, I think, but you're actually saying the opposite. So maybe there is, I don't know.
I made it more complicated than that by saying there is at some point along a gradient, you might have a genuinely better product that was 50%, let's just say for sake of argument, 50% petroleum and 50% biofuel. And you'd say, oh, well, that's pretty good because now I've reduced by 50% the amount of fossil fuels being burned. So you might want to include that one, but you might want to exclude the one that is a very low percentage. I don't know how you find that figure, but I just wanted to put that conversation onto the table.
Got it. Well, this would be.
Ellen's got her
under-
hand up,
right?
and I think maybe she can keep us from too much canoodling here.
Right. So just to remind you too, Section 248 already regulates natural gas facilities, which does include the storage of natural gas. So we're talking about a pretty narrow sort of subset. We're talking about the definition of energy storage facility is setting the threshold for energy storage outside of a system, an existing system that doesn't have a CPG, when that system needs to get a certificate of public good. So we're lowering the threshold in this bill from 500 kilowatts to 100 kilowatts. But we're not saying that they're exempt generally. It's also being used throughout the rest of 248. So we're talking about sort of a subset of Title 30 where this definition is being used, and some of what you're talking about is probably captured by other parts of Section 248.
Senator Pearson.
So the question on the floor that filled me with terror from Senator Perchlik was the prospect of a fuel tanker, parking this. It's stored energy in the sense that it could be deployed. Now, there's language in there that brings it into the grid. So I don't think we're really talking about that. But I'd love some comfort there, Ellen. And related here, this is saying, and to Senator Bray's question, this is saying not entirely fossil fuel, but the gas we put in our car is not entirely fossil fuel. It's all loaded with ethanol. So help me answer the question from the next person on the floor that says, are we just making it easier to have big fuel tanks wherever and people calling them energy storage facilities and skirting some regulations?
So let's look at the definition of energy storage facility.
So
And
first,
just what this does not include.
right. So we're talking about stationary units because a while ago there was discussion about mobile units in the form of a vehicle. But again, this is about what types of storage devices need a CPG. And the corollary in sections 3 and 4 that have to do with land use regulation that say that Act 250 and municipal zoning don't apply to energy storage, but only if they're covered by Section 248 or the rules adopted under 8011. So 8011 is directing the PUC to adopt rules on all, or giving them the authority to adopt rules on energy storage devices of all sizes. And so I don't know if in your example, a large tank would be covered under the CPG needed for 100 kilowatts or greater.
So they're just out of this.
Likely, and if not, the PUC will have the option to add some additional clarity, because I don't think I don't know what the conversion of a large tank to would that be greater or lesser than 100 kilowatts?
A lot more.
So if a large natural gas tank were covered, it would potentially need a CPG here. We're not saying they're exempt.
But we're talking about storing energy. And we've been talking about for later use. And what the amendment says is storing energy not produced 100% by a coal-fired plant. So you can't use fossil fuel to create electricity and store it in that battery. You can't put a battery outside of a fossil fuel plant. So I'm hearing it, but we're getting, I think, way afield of what we started out with. And you know, I've got Senator McDonald and then Senator Bray.
Madam Chair, I think that we're looking at taking electricity off the grid, storing it, or taking it off a solar array and storing it. And these devices are very much the way electric cars are used today, when the utilities let the electric car charge at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to use electricity that they can't sell. And these devices could be charged at 3 o'clock in the morning to store electricity that they can't sell at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just picking that time. And I think Senator Perchlik was wise to say that it was electric energy. So you're not storing fossil fuel, you're storing electric energy. And it fits the profile of what we're trying to do. It's one way to make the sun shine at night. And this seems to be a prudent move ahead. And I think Senator Perchlik should be grateful that he caught anybody that was trying to play monkey shines with this one. And I think it works. Thank you.
I think we're proving that nobody can figure out monkey shines better than we can.
Eighth graders.
Senator Bray.
Monkey shine and malarkey. All right. So
I can hear the headline tomorrow morning. So
I think, I mean, for me, part of what we're getting a little caught up in is excluding things. Can we just say specifically what we want to store electric energy? In this case, I don't see the downside of just specifying what it is that we're storing in this kind of a device. It could be over time that there'll be other things, like we heard that proposal to maybe consider hydrogen, and maybe someone will bring something else forward. But for the near future, it would seem what we're aiming for is just what Senator McDonald laid out. We're trying to store electricity. How about if we just say that directly? Is that
committee, we have a bill on the floor and we have an amendment to that bill. I'm starting to feel like we're rewriting the bill. And
trying to fence in instead of fence out.
I think Senator Perchlik's amendment does it. So
I think it does, but so what we need, Senator Perchlik.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It tries to make it a little bit better. I started where Senator Bray was about trying to just say electricity, but the department basically said they've been working on this definition for a long time, and there are other potential, some innovative projects that might include hydrogen or natural gas, or renewable natural gas, or even pumped hydro or something. So since the such short notice and without a lot of time to like testimony from other parties, I thought this at least boxed out the worst of the worst. And maybe it's something that we have to come back to next year as we see what the PUC does.
So Madam Chair, I would suggest that we, I guess we would do a straw poll in support of Senator Perchlik's clarifying amendment, furthering our intention as I see it. There is a rule suspension question though, which will fall to Senator Brock. Otherwise, we're not looking at this until tomorrow anyway. But I'm hopeful, given that it's Tuesday, we could approve it and suspend rules and take it up at 3 o'clock when we're back on the floor.
Well, I have heard from several of my caucus that are disinclined to support a rule suspension
Okay.
and are not in favor of the amendment. I haven't received any detail as to precisely why, but that's obviously we're in the midst of everything.
We are. All right. Well, that one is not in our control unless someone tells us something we can do to fix it. Or
As I say, we're just looking at it. So again, no feedback and no input other than some opposition that I'm seeing.
okay, it might just be to have time to understand it.
To read, understand, and digest.
Yep. Okay, I've got Senator Bray and then Senator McDonald.
So it would be in another moment in time, it would be great to have more testimony, figure it out and exclude what we don't want, et cetera, et cetera. But this certainly goes a step in the right direction. So thank you, Senator Perchlik. And I stick with this and don't let the perfect become the enemy of addressing this one. Thanks.
Let me ask you a question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And that's of Senator Perchlik of why would anyone oppose this amendment? Based on what you know.
I guess the only people that would oppose it, I think the department's a little worried because it's just they see it as last minute.
Mhm.
But I think if somebody was thinking that they had a fossil fuel storage facility that was going to power electric generator, and they were like, "Hey, I'm in. My project's going to meet the definition," and then we change it. But I think their opposition could be mitigated by Senator Bray's point, where they just add a little bit of non-fossil fuel to it, and then they could meet the definition.
So I'm just thinking of just the basic concept of the storage is you have a propane tank that you store propane in to fuel your home generator. I know it's not particularly applicable, but that's what immediately comes to mind, and just trying to understand.
Right. So what I was concerned is somebody, has a really large propane tank and says, I'm an energy storage, so I don't have to meet the local zoning rules. I'm going to just go to the PUC under this simplified rule that wasn't really meant for propane tanks in a residential area.
Yeah.
But now I meet the definition, so that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I was trying to avoid, or just wanted to at least bring to the committee's attention.
And this would avoid that.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Senator
the
McDonald.
people who use generators to charge batteries, and I've got a couple in my district, are not on the grid. That's why they use the generators to generate electricity, to have batteries in their home. Some do have wind, some have solar, some have gas, some have gasoline. And I think Senator Perchlik's amendment says you got to be taking from the grid, has to be on the grid, and you're storing it. But I raised my hand to offer a suggestion that if perhaps Senator Perchlik's amendment could be made by himself, and that would get it up for consideration without having to worry about a rule suspension because it hadn't been offered. And then the Senator Brock's people could listen to what Senator Perchlik's amendment was all about, and they could decide for themselves how they'd like to go forward. So,
Yeah, I always assumed that Senator Perchlik would bring up the amendment. I'm just looking for a straw poll saying whether or not the committee supports it. The thing
Support
we
it.
usually do in the corner.
So,
Okay, Senator Pearson, you had something to,
Yeah, we need a rule suspension to get to third reading today because we just did second.
okay. Okay. So committee. We may want to do something else, but who finds that Senator Perchlik's amendment is okay? That we can support it? 1, 2, 3.
Rockin', are you with us?
No, I just need to think about it a bit.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to do
There's
that.
Senator Sorokin. Okay, well, it's right now it looks like 6-1. So you can say Senator Pearson, the committee by majority vote supports it. And we'll see
Senator
where it goes.
Senator Perchlik, you are, I believe, trying to track down a confirmation of support from Commissioner Tierney, right?
Right. I did talk to the department and the staff that's been working on this bill. You know, I spoke with, you know, the staff person cannot speak for the department. So they said they were trying to get confirmation, but they thought that it would be best to say that they were neutral at this point.
And I guess that frankly, that's where I am. I'm not opposed to it by any means. I just haven't had a chance to think it through.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can get everybody a little chance to think. I'd like to go through the gubernatorial appointments so we can get them on the calendar. If anybody has any, Senator McDonald, do you have a?
I'd move that we move to confirm the reappointment of Thomas Levitt to the Vermont Housing Finance Board. I spoke with him by phone. He assured me he had done nothing to embarrass the governor. He works for the Northfield Savings Bank, lives in Waterbury, and this is a reappointment.
Okay, so we have a motion to appoint Thomas Levin to
So moved.
the. Yes, I thought you had. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, say no. All right, that one carries.
I have
we
another
got-
one that I'm
You have another
pursuing,
one.
but
Oh,
haven't
good.
gotten back to me yet. So
Okay. Senator Sorokin, you have some?
One, I'd like to recommend the appointment of Michael Tuttle to the VITA board. He's a present board member since 2016. He was the president for some time of the 10 years, I think, of the Merchants Bank. And I talked to Cassie Polimas, who strongly recommends him and verified that he wants to continue serving.
Okay. That's a motion.
It is.
Okay, further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, say no. That carries. We got any more in? Senator Brock?
I have David Coates for reappointment to the Municipal Bond Bank. David has been around for many years in quasi-government and appointed roles. He's a retired lead partner for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Is it Pricewaterhouse or KPMG? I think it's
KPMG.
KPMG.
He's on the VSAC board with me.
Right. And so he's served on many boards, well known, has been an advisor to governors of both parties, and he's basically a good man. And he is interested in continuing. He told me something that I think is very interesting that I would pass on, provided Senator Sorokin puts his fingers in his ears so that he doesn't hear it. And that is that one of the reasons he wants to be reappointed is that they're working on a proposal that would take the bond bank out of the moral obligation of state government. And essentially that could free up as much as $700 million in bonding capability.
I've heard that before. I like that.
I thought you would.
Okay.
Interest rates.
He's also half of the dynamic duo with Mike Smith that went in and they worked on, was it Champlain College or Burlington College?
Burlington College.
He and Mike Smith have bailed out several businesses or institutions and gotten them back on track.
Well, not that one.
No, well, that eventually, that one went under. I
Yeah.
think they got it stabilized, or maybe it wasn't Champlain. I think it was Burlington. They
It
worked
was
on.
Burlington College.
Right.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, that one they lost.
So anyway, that is a motion, Senator Brock, right?
That is a motion.
Okay, further discussion. If not, say aye.
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 Oh, opposed, say no. I see that as 1, 2, 3. We all here? Yep, 70700. And do we have any more?
Yeah, I've done one.
Oh, okay, Senator Brock's got another one.
It's Anthony Collins of Colchester. And he's for appointment. He served 1 year, and I'm trying to I don't have my notes in front of me of the board that he's on. VSAC, VSAC board. I think it's VSAC.
He must be the new appointment then.
I don't know. It says Faith may have the note. I don't have it in front of me. I thought for some reason I thought it was VSAC, but he's a young man, born or lived in Vermont all of his life. Graduated from Emerson College in Boston. He was an athlete there, but unfortunately was injured and early in his career suffered a number of concussions, et cetera, as a result of the injury. But he worked on the West Coast for a firm, a Silicon Valley firm, relocated back to Vermont a couple of years ago and is now working remotely for that firm. And it is a Vermont Economic Development Authority. It's the VETA board, not VSAC.
Yeah, I didn't say, we've got the
VETA, right.
president of Sterling College just came on, but
Right.
this one was not ringing a bell. Okay, VETA board, that sounds more
VETA
like
board and is very interested in remaining on the board and continuing to do the work.
Okay. So further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I'm seeing that 700. And Senator Brock, you have any more?
No, just
That's
those two.
it? Okay. Senator Bray, do you have?
I had someone who I just wanted to find out if we're planning on meeting again. She's been away and will be back. I have a meeting with her scheduled for tomorrow morning.
I am sure we will be meeting again. Just don't let us forget to do it. At this point, well, if we go home on Friday, they probably aren't going to be on. They have to be on the calendar for 3 days. So they won't formally get voted until next year. You just need to let the secretary know that we voted. This is the vote. These are the ones we do en masse. Everybody on page 1398 through 1400 is approved. So I told them if you need a reporter, it was me, but they don't generally have a reporter. So just let them know. And we're all going to get like a half hour off, not quite 20 minutes. Senator Bray.
Do we ever suspend rules to have someone who's sitting there for 2 days go? I mean, there are our own rules.
I will leave it to you to find out.
Okay.
Okay, Senator Hardy.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just I received a communication from one of our colleagues on the Senate Education Committee asking if we had taken any position on S13, which is the waiting study bill that has the threshold, spending threshold moratorium for 2 years. And I couldn't
Yes,
remember if
and we
we'd taken a
did
vote.
not take a position. I double checked that with Faith. We talked about it. And
2
then I
years?
think we got caught up in miscellaneous revenue.
Right.
To the point where we became dysfunctional and we never got back to 13. So let me find that.
Yeah, Senator
Yeah.
McDonald, it's a 2-year moratorium, FY '22 and FY '23.
I'm better off going to court. I don't have to wait that long.
Budgets have been voted for '22 already, but
Well, I
20,
think that someone's better off going to court and pushing this thing if we're gonna sit around on our hands.
No, this is just
No,
the
no, no, no.
excess spending threshold is
Yeah.
suspended.
this is this moratorium on excess spending.
My apologies.
Yeah, there
Okay.
would still be the rest of the bill is about the implementation thing. This is just this narrow thing that's related to the education fund, and that's why it came to finance.
And remember, we definitely can cover it in what we've got on the bottom line. This was very important to House members who represent districts who think they're going to do really well and want that weighting imposed now. And some of them,
Yeah, the ones that have been getting a heart.
yeah. So this gives some of them, it's part of the compromise. You know, I don't have a problem with it. Does anyone? We found out, I think, remember Brad James was in, we've already exempted in miscellaneous tax, the spending for capital projects, which some of them didn't know they were supposed to ask for permission and got hit. And we had done several of the schools that were out on there with already. So we're picking up a few more schools. They tend to be either quite wealthy who are going to spend no matter what we do to them, or very poor with a small number of students, and anything makes that cost per student over the threshold. So
I have seen, I've received a memorandum from the administration opposing the change in the excess spending rule. And although it's somewhat lengthy, it basically ends that they believe that implementing a moratorium on the excess spending as part of the bill is premature. Excess spending threshold is one of the few bright lines there is in the education finance system, and we risk making Vermont less affordable without it, is the administration position.
okay. So Senator Hardy.
I have really mixed feelings about it, actually, because I think there are some districts that could really benefit from it and that need it. And we probably all have some of those districts in our school districts, in our Senate districts. And then there are districts who don't really need it and will use it. And so I have mixed feelings about it. And but I do think that the way that the spending threshold works right now, it's not very good, and it needs to be re-examined to be both more effective and more equitable. But more politically, given what Senator Brock just said, and I'm not surprised at all that the administration takes that position. That's pretty consistent with what they usually say. Is I'm concerned that it might lead to a veto of this bill, and that this bill is pretty important for many towns and school districts. So I don't know, Randy, Senator Brock, if you've heard anything along those lines, but.
I have not, but I do know, my understanding of the concern is that there will be an amount of money, and I think it's supposed to be at 1.4 million, that would not be paid this year by a handful of high spending districts that money would be withheld from the education fund. And in order to, the money will come out of the unreserved or unallocated amount for 22. And that's usually used to lower rates for all districts the following year. And so next year, all of the districts will have to absorb that penalty. And that is one of the major concerns about why this may be not the thing to do at this point.
Senator Pearson.
Maybe I missed this, forgive me, but why is this in this bill? That's puzzling me.
My understanding is it was the compromise in Ways and Means between the folks that represent small districts or districts that feel that the weighting study should have been put in now, and that their school districts are being disadvantaged. And this was the balance, very much like the last bill that they came up with. It's what it took to get it out of committee or off the floor. I'm not sure which.
But maybe somebody could help me understand. I mean, if the weighting study comes back and we enact a new formula that has a bunch of schools hitting this threshold, clearly we would deal with it at that time. So I'm not are you saying it's just political, Madam Chair, that this is a sweetener for some?
Yeah.
That would advance just the.
And it's only for 2 years. It's not, they're not doing away with it. It's been an issue. Because it does hit schools that are struggling along with schools that just want to spend more. But if you're a small school and your roof leaks or you need new textbooks, that can blow your spending per pupil. So it's an imperfect disciplinary measure. There are some of these schools we'd want to spend more. So it's 2 years. We can stand up and say we don't like it. I think this bill is too important that it's not going to get it. Yeah, it's not. We've had this fight with the administration before. I don't think this will get a bill of this much importance vetoed. That's just my off the cuff judgment, but getting that weighting study in is important, and to veto it is just going to call us back, and it's going to just prolong the agony and the expense. So Senator McDonald, you have.
So there are two, the new wrinkle that we've had in excess spending has been spending for capital construction, which is, they make decisions on whether you have a leaky roof, if that's capital construction, or if you go out and build a new wing is capital construction.
Mhm.
One is maintenance and the other is going out and doing stuff. And when there was capital construction that was in the budget, school districts tried to make leaky roofs eligible as opposed to maintenance. And now that there is no capital construction,
No money.
it's operating expenses. But is there any way to separate it? Say if you're gonna go out and put in air conditioning
We
and do
already
this, that, and the
did
next
the
thing,
capital
you're-
construction.
you're subject to it, but if you're just doing maintenance, you're not subject to it.
We already said
Senator
in
Senator
the
Hardy
in miscellaneous
his
tax,
funds, so maybe she could help us.
in miscellaneous tax, we already said that capital construction costs did not count towards your excess spending threshold. So we've done that. This what were there, 12 or 13 schools that got caught. We've already taken close to half of them off. This is another 5 or 6 schools. We can take it off. We're going to go to conference and we are going home on Friday. So, I mean, it's the end of the year. Senator Hardy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, Senator McDonald, the chair is correct in that we took care of the excess spending threshold for costs related to capital construction. And was it miscellaneous tax? It was in there? Okay. I knew it was in some bill. I also had a bill that I introduced this year that would have exempted increases in school health insurance costs. So just the marginal increase in the health insurance would have been, if this bill had passed, would have been exempt from the threshold. So there are other ways to get at it too by further exemption. But one of the reasons that the threshold is so problematic is that there are a list of like, I don't know, 14 exemptions already. And so then once you have that many exemptions, you start to think maybe we should look at this whole thing again.
Yeah.
And I think the weighting study will have to look at the threshold as part of the implementation of the weighting study, because once you implement a completely different formula, the threshold becomes, that's got to be part of what that committee is going to do. And you're right, Madam Chair, in that there are a certain number of districts that bumped up against the threshold because of other reasons besides capital construction. And those were in FY22 budgets. That in FY23, there could be a whole bunch more that exceed the threshold because there is no threshold, and they do it for a lot of different reasons. And you know, that may be something we want to support, and a lot of them will do it for really, really good reasons. And you know, some will just spend more money. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of mixed, but I also I want this bill to go forward because I think it's really important that we do this implementation work. And that's why I just didn't want it, you know, that's why I asked Senator Brock about a potential veto. But if you don't think that that's an issue, then, you know.
You never know.
Yeah, obviously, but.
We've seen many things vetoed. All right, we're on the floor in 10 minutes on this one. What's the committee
Do
think?
anything on the 13?
It was sent, yeah, we're probably gonna be asked. We didn't report it. We got it for one day and asked to look at it.
Yeah, I just got another text, Madam Chair, this time from the Pro Tem's office, saying that the Education Committee concurred with S13. And what are we doing? Are we either saying we're okay with it, or are we taking no position? Is what?
We could take no position.
I
Doubtful.
seems like it might be more helpful for us to express our begrudging concurrence.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have some concerns, but we understand that this is only for 2 years, and rather than risk the bill.
Right, and knowing that the committee will look at this as part of the implementation work. Yeah.
Okay.
But we know it will have an adverse, you know, in all probability, it will have an adverse effect on some districts. And we have to take that, we should be taking that into account.
Mm-hmm.
The implementation of the weighting study, you mean? Is that what you mean, Senator Bross?
No, I'm talking about the particular, the provision of the excess spending.
Right, in that all districts will end up having to pay for the excess. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like I said, it will help some districts that really need help, but it also has negative implications. And that's why I've mixed feelings about it.
I mean, they've got ESSER funds out there right now. I mean, if we've got to do something, this is a good year to do it. And waiting needs to be dealt with. Excess spending needs to be dealt with. We have work to do. And if this moves us forward to doing the work, we'll do it. I don't know. So are we going to, I assume it might be me because we didn't have a reporter on this one, did we? Unless someone would like to report it. Senator Bray,
I'm not, that my
are you
hand is down.
volunteering?
No, I'm asking you, I'm here to I'm volunteering myself to ask a question. So when
Okay,
you say it moves us towards, how would you describe to someone who expressed the concern Senator Brock brought forward, how this moves us forward towards, addressing it in more productively in a subsequent session? Because I think
Well,
that's,
we're down to the last 2 days. If we throw a wrench in this right now, because everybody else has approved it, it's going to send it to conference. And that puts it at risk. And it's arguably more expensive to keep us here for several more days. I think excess spending has been an issue almost every year, and for any number of reasons. And we do need to look at it because it doesn't just impact the schools we want to impact. It impacts schools that we think probably should spend a little more money on textbooks or computers or other things. We need, this will move us forward into looking at that whole issue of how do you wait for students? How do you control spending? It'll move us forward.
sure.
I mean, it won't throw a wrench in it. So Senator Brave, are you done? Okay. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
yeah, thanks. I just wanted, you've been through this discussion many times before, so I just wanted to hear how you articulated the advantages of moving forward with the bill, even though there are things that we may not like about it at the moment.
Senator
So-
Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Bray, this may be helpful for you specific to our district. We have school districts in our district who do not want the weighting study to move forward because
Right.
it won't necessarily help them.
Yeah.
And they are very concerned and nervous about the implications of implementing the weighting study. However, those very same districts would love to see the spending threshold be eliminated. So I think part of the compromise is actually not only within the sort of legislature, but among school districts so that they can say there's something in it for all of us. And I'm happy to tell you in more detail about that, but I think that will make them feel a little bit better about the weighting study moving forward toward implementation if there's a moratorium on the spending threshold.
Yeah.
And that's the explanation I was given.
Yeah.
That this was,
Yeah.
it was
thanks.
very important to some school districts.
Yes,
Because it was is seen as a balance.
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, I'm happy to be the reporter if you'd like to have someone besides you or.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Right.
So, committee. Who wants to report that we have some reservations, but that moving this bill forward at this point really is important, and we're not going to, we're not going to object. That we agree we do need to look at weighting, and we also need to look at the excess spending threshold. Is
So
that,
is that your straw poll question?
yeah, that's my straw poll
Okay.
question. Okay, can I see a
Yeah.
show of hands? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So Senator McDonald, you don't want to do this, and Senator Brock, and I've got 5. Okay, so I'm seeing that as 5 opposed. I'm seeing it as 5-2.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. So Senator Hardy, I'll be happy to have you do this.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get off the floor in time to go to health and welfare.
It'll be
Or
tight.
I have to go back. to broadband. Oh, okay. It is the last week in the session, but we still haven't had enough hurry up and wait so you can at least go out and walk around the building. Usually you got to do
Right.
one lunch downtown or,
There's no gelato in my neighborhood, though.
yeah, I know. Not mine either.
Senator,
And he
should I
was open.
end?
He was out on the curb serving gelato on Saturday. He
We're open
didn't go
about
in the
3 days a
store.
week.
Are you ready to end live stream?
I